Hello everybody, welcome to VCIM 1200 Game Design 1. My name is Bill Wetzel and I'll be teaching the class this semester. The intent of this presentation is to get you oriented to the course site and to briefly cover some of the important points on the syllabus. Now, I've already taken the time to log into Blackboard and enter the course site, and you'll notice that when you enter the course site, we're going to land on the announcements page. Now, I'm going to use announcements during this class to broadcast messages to the class, and I'll ensure that I also broadcast that same message to your Tri-C email address. So make sure that you're tuned in to the Blackboard course site and your email on a regular basis. Now, when you look on the left side here, we have all the content areas for the course, and we'll land on the announcements page. Once you finish this presentation, make sure that you review the Start Here section and then move on to the Lessons folder. The Lessons folder is where all the content for the course will be delivered. And we'll break this content down based on the project folders and subjects and that sort of thing. And you'll see content that starts to roll out here over the course of the semester. As a general rule, just follow the content in sequential order and there'll be very clear instructions about what to do. Now, when you encounter questions or problems or if you just have some general questions, we'll conduct those discussions in the discussion board. And if you jump into the discussion board, you can see that I've set up a discussion board for you to introduce yourself. So take a moment, go into the discussion board, follow the instructions in the introduction section, and introduce yourself to the class. Now, you'll also notice when you're inside the discussion board that we have a dedicated forum for each one of the projects that we're going to work on in this class. So we have Project 1 Gravity Lab, followed by Project 2 the Adventure Island, and so on. Now, this is the place where we're going to post our works in progress. We'll ask questions and just have general discussion about the projects that we're working on. More about that a little bit later. I'm going to go back to the Lessons folder, and I want to point out that the syllabus for the class can be found in the Syllabus folder. So I'm going to review some of the just important information in this syllabus. I'm not going to review the whole thing, so make sure that you review this syllabus from beginning to end. And if you have any questions about the syllabus, you can either contact me directly through my email or you can post those questions to the discussion board. Now, I will say I recommend that unless you have a question that requires some kind of confidentiality, I would encourage you to ask those questions in the discussion board because we do want to use that as a place where other folks can view these questions and maybe provide some feedback to any questions that you might have and to answer some questions that folks might not have asked. So we're going to use the discussion board to kind of keep an open dialogue for this class. So back to the syllabus. Again, my name is Bill Wetzel and my office is located on the Eastern Campus in the East Liberal Arts Building in room 137. So I'm in building ELA, room 137, which is back in the Visual Communication and Design space. So if you happen to be taking a class on land, stop by and say hello so I can put a name to the face, or a face to the name, I should say. My phone number is listed here, but my preferred method of contact is my email. Now, below my email address, you'll find my office hours listed here, and at those times I can be found either in my office or in the VC&D space at the Eastern Campus. Now, I do want to point out that on Mondays, I have those listed as virtual office hours, which means that I could be on campus in my office, I could be on campus in a different location, or maybe I'm at the Western Campus or Metro Campus, or maybe I'm off campus at a different location, but I am plugged in and tuned in between 8:30 and 10:30. And then I have normal office hours in my office or in the lab space. So feel free to stop by and say hello. The course information is listed here, and you can read the catalog description. This is an online course, and all of the content will be delivered directly through Blackboard. So I'm going to scroll down a bit, and I want to stop at the required supplies. Now, there are a couple things that I want to point out that we're going to need for this class. If you don't already have one, I'd recommend getting an external hard drive. Even if you're working on your own computer at home, it's not a bad idea to have an external hard drive to where you can back work up, you can replicate it, so you have kind of a fail-safe system in place. So I'd recommend getting an external hard drive if you don't already have one. That way, if you are bringing projects to and from other classes, you can always have your work with you. The next thing that we'll need is Unity 3D, or Unity 4.5.2. Now, Unity is the game engine that we're going to use for this class. And about 95% of what we do in this class is going to be using the Unity game engine. I've provided a link here, but if you just go to unity3d.com, you can learn more about the Unity game engine. So I'll just jump over to the website. Now I do want to point out that if you go download the software, and by the way, the software is free. There's 2 versions of the software, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. At the time of this video presentation, the most current version is version 4.5.3. I've made a note in the syllabus, and I'd recommend that you use version 4.5.2. And the reason for that is that Tri-C is using 4.5.2. And Unity is notorious for not really wanting to be backwards compatible. So even something as small as a point version ahead, sometimes projects won't open in an older version of Unity. It does a very good job of opening up old projects in the newer version of Unity, but it's not very backwards compatible. So you can download Unity 4.5.2 through the website. I've also provided a link here. And if you go to the Unity 3D website, you can learn all about Unity at this website. There's some really great information. But if you go to the download link, instead of downloading Unity 4.5.3, just under that link is a link for looking for an older version. And this is their entire archive of all the different versions. So you can find Unity 4.5.2 and download for Windows or Mac, whichever your platform is, and you can get up and running. Now, there isn't that big of a difference between 4.5.2 and 0.3, so I'll leave that up to you if you want to just grab the latest version and assume that it's a it's a good stable version. But I will be using 4.5.2 for this class. So, and I would also recommend that whatever version of Unity you download, don't update Unity over the course of this semester. Whatever you use, whatever you start with, make sure you stick with that version, unless you download a version that we identify that there's some serious bugs with it, and then we might recommend that you update it. But the software is very stable and it is free. So make sure you go through the process of downloading Unity and install that on your system. I'll talk a little bit more about getting Unity up and running in another presentation, but for now, I want to jump back into the syllabus. So we're going to require Unity 3D, and again, you can download that at this link in the syllabus. We're also going to require that you purchase Playmaker, which is an extension to Unity 3D. Now, there's 2 places that you can get there's 2 places that you can get Playmaker. And I've provided both of those links here. The first place is through the Unity Asset Store. Now, the Unity Asset Store, oops, let me back up and open this in a new window here. The Unity Asset Store is a storefront that's supported and sponsored by Unity, where you can sell models and scripts and extensions to the Unity game engine environment. And Playmaker is it's a visual scripting tool that we'll use to really create some rapid prototypes of some games. So we'll be programming, but instead of scripting this code from beginning to end, we'll build functionality and scripts and interactivity through this visual scripting environment. And I just want to point out that the price is listed here, and this is directly from through the Unity Asset Store, and there are some advantages of purchasing through the Unity Asset Store. More about that a little bit later. I'm going to jump back into the syllabus. There's a second place where you can get Playmaker, and if you buy it directly from the Hatong Games website, they will give you an educational discount. And so I'll just open this link in a new window and point out that if you go to their store to purchase Playmaker, they'll give you a 50% discount on Playmaker if you buy it through their website and claim educational use. Now, there is a downside to purchasing the Playmaker for educational purposes, and that just means that you agree to their terms of use for educational use. Now, the only other downside to purchasing the educational discount is that you can't extend the use of Playmaker. And what I mean by that is in the future, it might be that you want to, maybe there's a function that doesn't exist inside Playmaker and you want to create your own function or write a script that handles something. You aren't able to do that in the educational version. So, but I'll leave that up to you. We actually won't be extending the functionality of Playmaker in this class, so you can actually go through this whole program and just use the educational version, but I do want to point out that there is a limitation to it. So there's also some recommended text and supplies here, and just a couple of books, a couple of free books through Safari Books Online. If you want to take a look at those books, we don't reference those books directly in this class, but it is full of valuable information. So I'd recommend a couple of those readings. So I do want to point out the accessibility policy. If you need any kind of accommodation due to a medical or other kind of reason, you can contact our Office of Accessibility, our Access Office, and their phone numbers are listed here, and you can access their website here. So make sure you contact a counselor or the Access Office directly if you need some kind of accommodation, and we'll be sure to get that in place for you. Now, as far as the projects go, I have the projects listed here, and I just want to give you a brief overview of the kinds of projects that we'll work on. The first project is going to be, this is called the Gravity Lab, and this project is intended just to kind of get up and running with Unity, make sure that you get it installed, understand the basic interface and some of the conventions, and we'll start to play with the physics engine inside Unity. The second project is we're going to create an entire outdoor environment. We'll call this the Adventure Island project, and the idea is that we'll create a first-person game where we explore an island, and we have to kind of solve the mystery of the island to complete the level. The third project is we're going to create a classic marble game. So we'll take a marble or a ball, third-person sort of character, and we'll drive that ball through an environment, avoiding obstacles and avoiding things that might hurt us, and we'll manage that through a point and a health system. And we'll start to get into things that extend the user experience, like we'll have power-ups and health and points and other things that we can do to make the environment really interactive. And then finally, the fourth project is our project that is Say It With a Game. So we'll create sort of an interactive greeting card that's intended to be used as an interactive message, greeting, or announcement, but there'll be a major gameplay component on the front end of it. So you have to complete this level or complete this this puzzle or experience before you get the reward of the message for the card. So those are the four projects that we'll work on. There'll be some other exercises along the way that kind of sharpen our skills and build up our skill set as we move through this course. But these are the things that we'll be assessed at, the projects that will be required, and you can see that the points are outlined here. So make sure that you read this syllabus all the way through. I do have a tentative course schedule here, and you can see where all the projects are due over the course of the semester. So read this syllabus from beginning to end. If you have any questions about it, you can post those in the general discussion board inside the discussion board forum. I do want to point out that any late project is reduced by 10% before it is assessed, and all projects should be delivered through the discussion board. And we'll talk a little bit more about that for each project and how to deliver to those. But give yourself ample time, plan for technical difficulties, because you know, we're going to be making games and asking our technology to do a lot for us. So make sure that we build in a little bit of time to overcome any kind of technical glitches that we have. So more about our projects and our games that we're going to create a little bit later. But for now, make sure that you log into the Blackboard website, review the course structure, make sure that you understand how things are laid out, take some time, go into the discussion board, and make sure that you introduce yourself. Once you introduce yourself, take the time to go into the lessons folder, review the syllabus from beginning to end, and if you have any questions, post those questions as well in the discussion board. Then take a moment and download Unity 3D from the developer website, and that's unity3d.com. Download the version that you're going to use for this class, install it, and we'll get up and running in Unity in the next presentation. But we'll do that in the next presentation.